Welcome back to Mean Streets, where we investigate the best, worst, and forgotten movies of film noir and more. I am Luke Deckard.
And I am Matthew Booth.
And we are your cinematic sleuths, and it's time to crack another case. And boy, what a case we have.
Today's case is 1992's Deep Cover, starring Laurence Fishburne, or Larry Fishburne as he's credited, Jeff Goldblum, written by Michael Tolkin and Henry Bede, and directed by Bill Duke.
Bill
Bill
Duke. Yes.
Yeah, great bloke.
So this film was not originally in the lineup. We actually had another episode planned, and I watched this with my buddy Phil a few days before we were meant to record. And as I was watching this, Claire, my wife, turns to me. She's like, "You could probably do this for your podcast, right?" And I'm like, "Hell yes, hell yes." Yeah. And so the next day, I messaged you and I was like, "Have you watched the film that we're meant to do?" And you were like, "No." And I was like, "Good. Put this at the top of the pile."
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd never seen it before. Had you?
No, I have never even heard. This has totally passed me by, this film.
Yeah, same.
This was at a time, this is 1992, so this was at a time when I was finishing A-levels and getting a year out job before I went to university in 1993. So this completely passed me by.
I mean, same. I was not. I mean, I think you grow up in the 90s, you watch a bunch of 90s film. There's a lot of film. There's a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows. You're not going to see everything. And this one was just one that I never. I mean, about a year ago, me and my wife had this thing where we were just deep diving into nothing but 90s action movies. And it was so much fun. And even doing that, like, we didn't stumble upon this one.
Nope.
Which I wish we had done that, because we probably would have done this much sooner. But no, it's always fun to stumble upon something you've never seen and that you just almost instantly fall in love with.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's always a good feeling when that happens. It's rare. It gets increasingly rare.
Yes.
As time goes on, that happens. Yeah. And I thought, I've never heard of this, so I Googled it, and the first one that came up was one made last year, I think.
Yeah, there's a new one out at the moment with
rubbish comedy.
With like Orlando Bloom in it or something.
Yeah, that's right. That's the one. Yeah. And I thought, he doesn't mean this, surely.
No. Good God, no.
Read the message again and thought, no, it's this one. This is the one.
Yes.
And then just, spent a bit of time thinking, never heard of it. Never come across it at all. Never even heard it referenced in any other like reviews or anything, that have passed my way over the years. So this is a total unknown entity for me.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of wonder if part of the reason it's kind of passed out of, because it is still a popular film. Back in 2021, it had a very nice Criterion edition that was released that I have since bought and added to my collection. Has a fantastic cover on it. Absolutely love the cover. So but there is, when you go to research this particular film, there really isn't a lot of information out there. There's a few solid sources, but there's not a lot. But I also sort of wonder if part of the reason it's not one of those mega hits is because Laurence Fishburne, he's still coming up. He's had several good and strong roles. He's been in things like, was he in Magnum? He was in Spencer for Hire. And he was in Miami Vice. He was in
Miami Vice, definitely.
Yes. So he'd been in those two by this point in time. He's coming up. He's got a lot of TV show work he's been doing. He's been Cowboy Curtis on Pee-wee for many, many years running. He was in Boys in the Hood the year before.
Boys in the Hood, yeah.
So his profile is, he's on this kind of steady incline, whereas Jeff Goldblum is he's already done big films like The Fly and things like that, but he's the next year, 1993, changes the game because it's Jurassic Park.
Yes.
You know, and I wouldn't, it's one of those things where, I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason, there was a film we discussed a while back, Night Moves, where we were like, why did this get buried? Why did this sort of, and there were so many other things coming out at the time, that you just sort of think it just something has to sort of not fall through the cracks, but just gets a little bit overlooked. And I feel like this one is not entirely overlooked, but it seems to be, I'll say mildly overlooked.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And there was 1992, 93. There were loads of films, these thriller films, dark thriller films at that. Loads of them coming out one after the other, and things do get. I mean, I would say fall through the cracks to a certain extent. Things do get lost, when there's a wave of these films coming, you are bound to overlook some. And we'll probably get into it, but I wonder what the marketing was like and all the rest of it. But you're right, certainly. I mean, Goldblum to me was The Fly at this point, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers and things like that. So he'd not broken like into the big time as far as I was concerned.
Yeah,
and Fishburne was a total. I didn't know about Fishburne until The Matrix, really. That when he was
I knew about him. I watched Pee Wee, so I knew him from Pee Wee. But growing up, my jump with him goes from Cowboy Curtis to Morpheus.
yeah. I mean, he's done loads of stuff.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Prior to The Matrix, I will have seen him because he is in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. My research tells me so, and I've seen that loads of times. So I will have seen him, but it's not registered not made the connection when The Matrix appears.
Yes.
And it's good to see him at essentially the start of his movie career, because, like you say, apart from is it Boys in the Hood, I don't know how much he'd done before this, but he's definitely
he had a bunch
still
of
cutting his
roles.
Teeth.
Yeah, he had a bunch of different roles. He was in again, I can't remember how big of a role. He was in Apocalypse Now, Willie and Phil. He did a bunch of he had a bunch of roles, a lot of TV stuff in the 80s. So he was A Rumor of War, 6 O'Clock Foley's, Trapper John, MD, MASH, Strike Force.
Yeah, so you see some of those we didn't get over here, I don't think.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hill Street Blues, which
Hill Street Blues will probably have seen him in, but not registered.
You'll know from our Miami Vice discussion.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously Miami Vice, Spencer for Hire, and then after Spencer, he went on and did Nightmare on Elm Street. Then a couple more. Then he kind of did a number of films in a row. But yeah, he was in The Equalizer, the TV show.
Yeah, he'll have been one of those actors that you see. Well, I see, but I don't necessarily make the connection between things that I've seen. I don't make him as a connection. So I'll have seen him in The Equalizer. I'll have seen him in Hill Street Blues, and not realised it was the same bloke, perhaps because the name doesn't mean anything to me.
I think it's probably fair to say The Matrix was the role that made him.
Yeah, I would say. Well, that's when I knew who he was. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Whereas I've known Jeff Goldblum from The Fly and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, as I say. So I've known him since I was a kid, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good to come to a film with no expectations of it and no knowledge really of what it was about, apart from
same
undercover cop, in a drugs ring.
I mean, how I came upon this film was I me and my buddy Phil, we watch films every once in a while, and we recently made our way through the Godzilla films have different eras that I'm very bad at remembering what the eras are called. But we started with 1984, which was the big reboot of Godzilla, 1984 is a fantastic. Godzilla Returns is one of the best Godzilla movies ever made. And from that movie, they then went on to Godzilla versus Biollante and a bunch of others. And so we were watching that particular era, and they just get shittier and shittier and shittier as the franchise goes. But he just kept pushing. He's like, "Oh, we got to finish these. We got to finish these." I'm just like, "Oh God." Fine. And the last one we watched, I think, was Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, which was just absolutely brain dead.
These are the original, like the Japanese ones, right? These are
these are all Japanese. Yeah, not the American ones don't start. Really, the American versions don't start until 2014. There's the 1998 Godzilla movie that's
not
really
Godzilla
count.
though, is it? That's not Godzilla that I recognize.
No, but funnily enough, it does kind of count because in the year 2000, they did Toho did the Godzilla 2000 movie,
right?
And then that spawned the next era of Godzilla movies, and in that particular era, there's this bonkers movie in that series. I can't remember the name of it, but they have a bunch of different monsters come up, and they bring in the 1998 Godzilla.
Oh, right. Okay.
So they make it kind of canon, but they make it canon in a way that's saying and he dies. He gets killed by the real Godzilla. So he doesn't. It's sort of like, oh, this is just a monster, but the Americans didn't get the real Godzilla. They got this knockoff monster Godzilla.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah,
so they do sort of make it canon, which is funny to me. But no, I was growing up, I was a big fan of the old Godzilla movies, and
I used to like the old Godzillas.
Yeah,
I used to like the British versions. You know, not the British versions of Godzilla, but things like Behemoth and
oh right, yes,
Creature in 20,000 Fathoms, whatever it is. I used to love all them.
Yeah, so we made our way through these, and the last two that we watched were just utter dog shit. And I was like, hey man, I was like, let's watch a film, but like, can we please make it a good one? Because those last two were they were painful, dude. They were painful. And he's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, what's on the radar? And then he mentioned Deep Cover. I was like, don't know it. And then I saw Laurence and I saw Jeff, and I was like, this sounds interesting. 1992. Let's give it a go. And then I just let it wash over me for an hour and 40 some minutes, and it was glorious.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, brilliant stuff. I was the same. I just said, don't know anything about this, so I just put it on, sat down with a drink, and just let it start.
Yeah,
and then an hour and 45 minutes, whatever it is later, just sat there thinking, that's one of the best things I've seen in years.
I know, right? Holy shit!
And it's 30 odd years old, whatever it is.
I know. With a theme song by Dr. Dre, which introduces Snoop Dogg. This was Snoop Dogg's debut. Came out with the track, the theme track for this movie. So good. So good. Okay. Let's go behind the camera and talk about how this thing got made. So it came out April 15th, 1992. It cost $8 million, and its box office return was $16.6 million. So made his money back, I would imagine. I mean, it's complicated because if you have to double for marketing costs, then it doesn't. But if you don't, who knows what the marketing cost was? But hey, it made $16.6 at the box office. Who knows what it made in home video, sales and rentals?
Yeah, subsequently, no idea. Yeah,
because that was the thing about the '90s, all the way through until the 2000s, all the way up until effing streaming. You might not make the money back in cinemas, but that home release gives you another wave of sales that covers those costs.
Well, people forget the Shawshank Redemption was a total flop. Yeah. It's not a film that I admire. I don't like it, but that aside, it was a total flop in cinemas. It gained its reputation and its money on video. People forget these things. And you go to the cinema, you love it. When it comes out on video, you're straight out to watch it again, because in those days you didn't have much choice.
No. I remember going to I mostly rented films from our local library. They had a pretty good film section, which was always fun. There was another place called Video to Go, that we would occasionally rent movies from. But my parents always had that excuse of this place is too expensive. And they also wouldn't rent movies from Blockbuster. No, Blockbuster is too expensive. So I feel shortchanged. My childhood feels shortchanged because you see all these people that have this like nostalgia for Blockbuster, and I'm like, my only memory of Blockbuster is going in there once, seeing that 1970s Spider-Man movie on the shelf, wanting to rent it, being told no, going back because I finally talked them into letting me, and then not being able to find it, and then never seeing it until I was an adult watching it on YouTube like 3 years ago.
That's a real kick in the teeth.
I know, right? All that time I waited just for that shit.
And look what you got. Yeah.
I know, right? But anyway, yeah. So definitely. I mean, that was the thing. You know, it was so easy to make your money back because you had that boost. So who knows what it made outside of its initial box office? But it seems like a healthy box office. Critic response seemed to be pretty good at the time as well.
Yeah. There's some good reviews of this. Yeah. There's a great quote. I'm just trying to find it. Have you seen this quote from the Entertainment Weekly? Owen Gleiberman.
Go on.
And he says, the movie peels away every layer of hope, revealing a red-hot core of nihilistic despair.
Sums up.
I think that's a great quote. And if that was on the back of a video box, I'd have rented it on that alone. On the basis of that alone.
Yes. It's true. So yeah, as we mentioned, directed by Bill Duke. Bill Duke is great. So his background, he comes from theater. He was a theater actor before jumping into movies. His debut movie was Car Wash in 1976. I mostly know him from 3 films. And one being he was in Commando in 85. He was in Predator, which was the big thing that I remember him from, is Predator from 1987. And then he was in X-Men The Last Stand. He played Bolivar Trask. Now, say what you want about X-Men The Last Stand. That thing did 2 things right. And that was its casting of Kitty Pryde, and that was its casting of Trask. I thought those 2 were 3 actually. Kelsey Grammer is Beast.
Yeah, Kelsey Grammer, great.
Fantastic casting. Oh, sorry, 4. The kid who played Angel. The film sucks. The cast is fantastic. They cast him spot on for that movie. And I remember being so disappointed with in the fact that Days of Future Past didn't retain Bill Duke's Trask, and they replaced it with Tyrion Lannister. God damn it! What's his name? He's in the new Dexter show. I gotta find it now.
You'll have to look this up because I can't help you on this.
You just got to bear with me, listeners. I'm looking it up now, and I'm gonna tell you, Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
So and don't get me wrong, Peter Dinklage was fantastic in the role, but it's like you already had Bill Duke.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and who knows? Maybe he couldn't do it. This has happened in the past where they cast someone great. There's time for some sort of sequel that might utilize, and that person just can't do it. And then you got to play with that, you know? So there
are such things as schedule conflicts, aren't there?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like you, I know Bill Duke from 3 films.
Yes.
You mentioned one of them, and that's Predator. But I also know, and Commando actually, but I also know him from American Gigolo.
Of course,
he plays a gay pimp, and he's absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular in that.
Yes.
I do remember him from X-Men: The Last Stand. Yeah, I do remember him in that. But I was sort of sinking in that film for obvious reasons. I do remember him standing out. Yeah, as a like a beacon of hope in an otherwise dreary film.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned. Was this off camera? Yeah, it was off camera. You were mentioning The Dark Knight Rises and how there might be scenes you might go back and rewatch. X-Men: The Last Stand, and I was like, there's nothing in Dark Knight Rises I want to rewatch. X-Men: The Last Stand is one of those films that there are scenes that are fantastic, like Magneto flipping the truck, the semi truck.
Yeah, I remember that.
The film is a terrible narrative, but that is a damn good scene. Angel bursting his wing before he gets injected, bursting out of the thing and flying. That's fantastic.
That is brilliant stuff.
You know, even though it's a bit stupid, Magneto ripping apart the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, he ruins it by saying Charles always wanted to build bridges. He ruins it by saying that. But like, there's a really fantastic moment where like he drops the bridge and he's just hovering in the air, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know,
Angel is good. Angel breaking out the wings is a great image. Yeah,
maybe one of these days we should do the X-Men films for a special review for our patrons. Okay. Our patrons do the X-Men trilogy and then see where it goes.
That'd be good because it's a long time since I've watched all three.
Oh, I love him. I love him. Back to Bill Duke. So
Bill Duke,
his directorial debut was a TV movie in 1984 called The Killing Floor. He then went on to direct, and this is something I've not seen, but I am really eager to. He adapted Rage in Harlem, the Chester Himes, an adaptation of a Chester Himes novel. And I watch this space, podcast listeners, because that one will definitely be done at some point as well. Because I need to see it. I
think I've seen it, but a long time ago. Not enough for me to say. Yeah, you know whether it was any good or not. But
yes,
it's one I'd like to revisit.
He did. Obviously, he also directed television, including Hill Street Blues and Miami Vice.
It's all linked. It's all connected.
I know, right? It's all connected. Ever since I started watching Miami Vice, I'm like, oh my god. I watch Miami, basically any show that I watch any crime show that I watch from the 80s, like Miami Vice and Spencer. I'm like, this guy, and Magnum PI. I'm like, oh, there. So Deep Cover, if you haven't been able to work out, is Bill Duke's second film, theatrical film, and I mean, what a second outing for a director, for a newish, film director, or
a newish director. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So accomplished.
Yes.
The way it's everything, the performances, the set pieces, the atmosphere, it's so accomplished. For Absolutely. What is his second feature, as you say.
Yeah. It's there's some stuff that I think kind of explains why that is, which I'll get into a little bit later. But he's a director who knows what he's doing, and he's a director who knows how to work with his cast and crew to get the best out of them, and that is shown, shining colors in Deep Cover.
Yeah, it stands out a mile, and he knows what he wants, and he knows how to get it. Essentially, yes, it's a really slick piece of work. This
now the book. This is based on a book. Now, this is not based on a fiction book. This is based on a true story, sort of. Well, it is based on a true story. There's no sort of. It is based on a true story. It's based on an 80s book by a former DEA agent who was undercover and who was dealing with the West Coast drug epidemic at the time. He was, he was basically aware of all the drugs that were coming in, and they were busting all of these people. But, the main kind of thing that was pestering him was he's like, well, I mean, we're busting all these people, but like, they're not making the drugs. They're not selling the drugs. They're just buying the drugs. So his whole thing was he went to the higher ups. He's like, we need to find the people that are importing this crap, and that's who we need to go after, because that's the way to stop the drugs getting onto the streets. And there is there's a quote, and this is a quote from Bill Duke, where he says, he's talking about the book, and he's talking about how the guy was a drug enforcement agent, and that one day he realized they were selling, blah blah blah, and then he went back to the people and he said, hey, why don't we go up to the people that are growing and importing, and the higher ups, in his the way he describes it, basically put a finger to his mouth and shushed him. Because what does that tell you? That means they're in on it. They have, They have interests, which we see played out in this movie.
It's what this movie's all about.
This film is so, I mean, this again, kind of, going back to just what does it mean to be noir, and you go back to Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett and those early writers, and what were they doing? They weren't doing the twee bullshit British garbage that Agatha Christie was doing with these convoluted plots and this, as Chandler said, God sitting in your lap scenarios to make a murder work. They were telling, as Chandler wrote, to Hammett gave murder back to the kind of people who commit it for reasons. Right. Yes. And that's why I think I've always been more drawn to noir films and hard-boiled novels and stuff that taps into the realities of crime, even if it's fanciful, even if it's in a fanciful world or whatnot, like even something like Lord of the Rings that taps into the importance of nature and the importance and the threats of war and that kind of stuff. There's something that you can connect with versus just overly convoluted nonsense. And I think that is, this true story lent itself to be made into one of probably one of the best 90s neo-noirs that we got.
Easily. Yeah, easily. And you're right, that is what noir does. I think there's a place for both because I'm a fan of both, but noir definitely gives murder back to those who commit it for a reason and not just to provide a corpse, I think is the end of that quotation.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's also the famous bit about, people don't commit murder with jewel-encrusted dueling pistols and some poison from some fish or whatever it is he says, And that is true, and that is a valid criticism of some of the Golden Age stuff. People commit murder with what is to hand, and people commit murder with guns, and people commit murder on the spur of the moment. They don't start faffing around on locomotives trying to prove they were somewhere else at the time. So
Lord Darlington will stand in front of the clock at precisely 11:45 p.m. The dark will shoot out.
Even I don't like these sort of Golden Age detective stuff where you've got to pore over a train timetable to find out how he did it. I can't bear any of those.
Yeah.
But noir does give it back to people who commit it for reasons. And truth is often stranger than fiction. Truth is often a great springboard for fiction. And that the fact that this is based on a true story, as it always does for me, adds an extra layer of menace to it because these things really happen outside of the cinema screen, outside of the pages of a novel. These things really happen, and they are, to a certain extent, Chandler's a fantasy world because Private Eyes don't act like Philip Marlowe do, but you've got to have a suspension of disbelief on all these things. But then every now and again something comes along that doesn't require you to have that. Yeah, as much as other things do, and this is one of those because this is what the real world is.
Yeah,
people are dying. People are dying in this film. People die in this film for almost no reason whatsoever.
No, it's the chaos of
it's the chaos of it streets. All. Yeah, it's the what was that quote? The nihilistic heart of whatever it was I said. Nihilistic despair. The red hot core of nihilistic despair. I think that's what noir is about. We've said it on this channel many times. That it's fate playing a hand. It's just the blackness of it all. It's the chaos of it all, and that's what this film is addressing. And the fact it's doing it from real life roots, as I say, makes it all the more terrifying.
Yes.
God,
definitely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So so in terms of the kind of production history of this bad boy, the movie began. It was a collaboration between screenwriter Henry Bean and the producer Pierre David. They had both worked on Internal Affairs, which starring Richard Gere and Andy Garcia. Maybe not the best loved, but it I think it made some money. And then that's
a guilty pleasure of mine. Actually, that's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Well,
I quite like that.
Watch this space. Internal Affairs coming to Mean Streets in 2026.
Having said that, big caveat coming. Not seeing it for about 20 years.
Yeah,
So
all right.
it might be horrendous. I don't know. But I've always remembered enjoying it.
Yeah. They then brought on Michael Tolkin to write the script, and then Bean was there to do some revisions, as well as working with Bill Duke. And when Duke was brought on board to direct this, and there's a lot of changes that happen once Duke was brought on board, and once he was working with the actors. I say a lot of changes, not big changes to the narrative per se, but changes to the direction of scenes and how characters act and what characters do. Fascinatingly, for those who don't know, the screenplay was originally written for with a white lead character. Now, if you don't know the author of the original book, he's a white guy, so they just sort of went with that. New Line Cinema were the distributors for this guy for Deep Cover, and because of films like New Jacket City and Boys in the Hood being so popular at that time, the studio suggested, hey, why don't you make this character, the lead character of this film, a black guy? And then that's when Fishburne was brought on board. And Duke just felt that he was the ideal person for this particular role, and I think absolutely he was.
Absolutely.
I
can't fault that, this casting.
No, I can't either. I think by making that change adds a very interesting dynamic to the piece, because it allows the film, I think, two things. By allowing the film to be rejigged so that you have a black lead, but then you also have a black director. There was a level of commentary and a level of social commentary that you're getting in this film that you wouldn't have gotten if it was a white lead,
Nope.
and you probably wouldn't have gotten to the level that you do with a white director. There's something quite special about the way that they approached this film and allowed it to develop in this way, that it allowed it to have I would say a stronger social commentary on not the drugs epidemic, but I would say its exploration of African Americans in that time and space. Then you wouldn't have been able to have gotten with someone else in the director's chair or in the leading role, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it adds an extra layer of corruption, if that's the right word, to the people who are meant to be the good guys.
Yes,
to the DEA, and
yes.
we're not, we're not long after Rodney King.
No.
So the racism in the police force, which not so long ago we were still talking about all over again, was a big thing in the early 90s on account of the King case. So this would have been, sort of shit hot relevant at the time.
Yes,
and it makes a dramatic change and a sort of, I don't mean pleasing in the way that you might think, but dramatic change to have the cops being corrupt, not just for cash, but for something that actually we are all aware of now exists in these institutions, and that is racism. And there's the constant question that the agent has when he's interviewing these cops to go undercover about the difference between the N-word and a black guy.
Yeah.
And that is paid off at the end of the film. And you couldn't do that with Caucasian leads. You couldn't do that with a white actor in the role.
No.
It just adds that layer of social commentary, like you say, but also a layer of narrative depth that, isn't. I think there's a comment made that's like, these deaths, because they are from the black community, won't get investigated.
Yeah,
they won't be looked into. So, it's making much more. Like you say, it is a comment on the drug culture of the time. Certainly, it is a comment on corruption, but it is also a comment on a very real racist attitudes that were prevalent and sadly still are at this time in world history. So this film is spot on everything it does in terms of narrative theme and political activism, for want of a better word.
It does that exceptionally, and it goes beyond that too, because when once Laurence Fishburne's character Russell is undercover, he's staying in this really shitty hotel or apartment complex, and there's a woman there who is tripping on drugs all the time. She's there's a scene where at one point she tries to literally sell her son to Laurence to Russell in order so she can basically have drugs, and it's nuts. And what it's shocking, and what you're looking at is a completely a dysfunctional welfare system at the time. You're looking at a education system that has completely and utterly failed the people. And this kind of goes back to the theme of the book, and that is this isn't about the people who are doing the drugs being the problem or being nefarious or something along those lines. It's about these bigger problems. It's the people who are making it. It is the people who are controlling the system who are letting the system fall apart and be a disservice to people and keeping them trapped in this extreme poverty that is inescapable.
Yeah, it's not exactly. It's not the people. It's not the punks and the hoods on the streets and in the alleyways. It's the people in the sharp suits and the flash houses.
Yes,
that are making the money. That are A, causing it because they make all the profits from the drug sales, and B, allow it to happen because they're all corrupt.
Yes.
So, and that's again, that's Chandler all over, isn't it? That's exactly the point he makes.
Indeed. So there were a few, because the book is real life, the script changes a little bit because of various changes that they've made. There's some liberties. Obviously, this isn't meant to be. Deep Cover is not meant to be a like for like adaptation of real events. It's based on these real events. So, for example, the character of Jeff Goldblum, he plays a lawyer named David Jason. He really wasn't in the the original book as much as he is in this. The character of Taft is not in the book at all, and the Betty, the gallery owner, she's not, played by Victoria Dillard, she's not in the book either. So this is, there's a book that is loosely based off of, these events are loosely based, which, how many times do our hard-boiled heroes tackle real events but in the guise of fiction all the time.
All the time.
It just makes it feel more believable.
It does make it more believable. Yeah, it does.
There's this obviously there's an element in the film where there's a reference to the fact that the cartel leader is golfing buddies with the president, which would have been George H.W. Bush at the time. To which Duke was asked about this, and he basically said, well, if you follow the dollars, it simplifies everything.
Yeah.
And it's like
the old thing from All the President's Men, follow the money.
Yes. Yeah.
It's almost a movie cliche these days. If you follow the money, you get to the truth.
Yes. Now on directing the people, because as we said earlier, there's such a Duke gets the best from his cast and crew, and one of the big reasons he's able to do that is because he's a big believer in collaboration. So for example, the one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the scene slapping scene. The hand slapping scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the film. And I remember when I was watching it the other day, I was on edge. Jeff Goldblum's performance of being a bit sort of nervous to then holding back his rage just felt visceral. It felt dangerous. And I was like, Jeff Goldblum isn't someone who I see as dangerous. In that moment, there was a sense of danger to this actor who I never felt danger from before. He made me believe that he was dangerous, and I thought that was, But this scene basically is an example of the actors basically felt that it needed to be more brutal than what it really was. And so in the original draft, apparently they got to the hand slapping very quickly. It was sort of bang, 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 done and dusted. But then, speaking with the actors and, once they sort of explained everything, kind of what they were feeling about the scene, he works in collaboration. So he understands that they understand the characters, they understand the scene, he understands them, and he creates a space where they can be collaborative in this way that, allowed for one of the best scenes in the film to be the way that it is, because, Duke is on the record as saying, the defiance, the rage that comes from Jeff, that's what makes that's what makes it a scene that people remember, and that scene would not have happened had they just followed the script. But because he works with the actors in the way that he does, we get this visceral, brutal, scary moment.
Yeah, it's like the old Mike Leigh thing of, just see what happens. You know who your characters are, just see what happens. It's an old acting technique, but it's all because it works. And Duke, being an actor, Duke will know how those sort of things go down, and we'll understand the importance of allowing that and seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah.
Very often you hear actors say the script is, some actors are slavish to the script. Some say, well, the script is a starting point.
Yeah.
And we see what we can get out of it, what we can squeeze out of it. And this is an example of the latter, and it's a violent, nerve-shredding example of the latter. I rewound it and watched it again. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And I also think I was watching it at lunchtime, and my wife came in just at the bit where Barbosa goes to work with a snooker cue or a pool cue on Frank. Is he called Frank or Eddie? Eddie. And, Eddie. And she just sort of watched it spellbound with it, and when it was finished, she just said, "That was brutal."
Yes.
You're not kidding me. You're not kidding. And I nearly said to her, "You think that was bad for in a different way? You watch this hand slapping scene."
Yes.
But, it so good and so organic. That's what I loved about it. And this goes to what you were saying. It isn't rushed. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It's very, very naturally acted out until that is the end point of it. Yes. That's its only conclusion. It's a natural conclusion. And I feel the same about the pool cue scene, And I don't know you might know, but I don't know if that was a similar sort of collaboration.
I couldn't find anything on that way, but I mean, who knows? I get the impression
it certainly
that
feels
a
like
lot of the film was there was lots of space to be able to massage the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's massage the scenes. Good way of putting it. It certainly has that feeling to me that those two brutal scenes were approached in similar ways. Certainly.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you about Goldblum. He's sort of taken on the reputation now of being a bit sort of comically odd and nice, but
yes,
he's terrifying in this. I find him absolutely terrifying in it. Even when he's slightly angry that his kid can't do multiplication tables.
Yes, she's gonna get it. She's gonna get it.
Yeah, and he's going a bit crazy then, and I think he's. Yeah. And when she adds the two numbers together for the second time, he just slams down on the table and goes and answers the door, and he's livid. And I think it's a brilliant performance from Goldblum in this.
Yes.
It really is one of his standouts.
There's so much to love about this film. I think thematically, I love what it's doing with the concept of dual identity.
Yeah.
Which we can sort of get into with Russell, with Fishburne's character Russell, and with Goldblum's Jason.
Jason,
David. Or David Jason. And there's this really great scene once Russell has Jason on side, and they're gonna start working together, and he takes Jason takes Russell to Betty, the art dealer that is, her art store is used as a laundering front.
Yes.
And Russell picks up a mask and holds it to his face. It's so interestingly layered, because in this scene, Russell is playing a drug dealer by the name of John Hull, and he's holding this mask. Everyone is wearing everyone is a mask, basically. You have whether that mask is sort of a physical mask or a psychological mask, and you have David Jason's character, who is he's a smarmy lawyer, but then he's also a lawyer for the cartel, but then he also wants to go out and be his own drug kingpin.
Yes.
He's also he pretends to be a loving husband to his wife, but then at the same time he's also having an affair. He's also sleeping with women. In what is a very interesting commentary of sort of the motive behind it seems to be rooted in racism as well. If you listen to the dialogue of what the exchange is between Russell's character and Jason's character. There's this dual or identity that's going on throughout this whole piece is fascinating. Even the DEA agent Carver, he is calling himself God.
Yeah, that's really I find that really unsettling, because I think there are people who are like that in charge of these organizations who do think they are God.
Yes, and I mean, there's a part of me that I sort of love it, but not in a positive way. It's very creepy the way he just because throughout the film he does have this. He isn't God-like. He's a very dopey, goofy looking guy, but he seems to be all-knowing. Every time he meets with Russell, he already knows everything that Russell has done, right? Yeah. I am God. He says it quite a bit.
Quite a lot, yeah.
And there's so much. There's a lot of interesting religious iconography and metaphor and theme going throughout this, because there's this idea that he's sitting here calling himself God the whole time, as one of his sort of masks. But then there's this sort of Genesis-like element to it, and that is he creates Russell. He brings Russell in to this world. He gives him a mission to do. Russell rebels from said mission, rebels from quote unquote God, and goes it alone, and then sort of he then sort of finds his way back to. He doesn't find his way back to God per se, but he finds his way back to a moral standing as the film goes on. But this concept of this sort of corrupt guy calling himself God, who's this corrupt white savior, is fascinating. Even in the hand slapping scene, you have the stripper in the background who's dressed as a nun. Yeah, and you're just like, it's really shocking and sort of like unsettling. And but then you also have Taft, the character of Taft, who is a street evangelist. You know, he's a Christian. He's blunt about being a Christian. He's throwing tracts in people, in people's face. He's trying to save people from their sins and from drugs. And he's almost sort of ignorant to his own sort of mission, that he's not doing it the right way. He's not evangelizing in a way that is beneficial to anything. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating, and he sort of apologizes, doesn't he, to Russell for the way he's treated him. He says, "I had no right to say all that, and as a Christian, I should apologize and seek forgiveness, and I do, And then he gives him a prayer book, like a book of common prayer, and says, "This will help you," and like he's the worst type of religious.
He is
zealot, that
he is
thinks that you can be easily converted with a prayer book.
Yes,
and I love the fact that he calls him Reverend. I think that's just a great.
That's hilarious.
A great insult,
It is.
But yeah, I agree with everything you say about Carver. He's cut from the same cloth for me as the I think he's the DA in LA Confidential that Russell Crowe hangs out of the window.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That sort of smarmy political cop or DEA agent in this case, or law enforcement in LA Confidential, who only wants to be at the top and be in control and be in command. Yeah. And really is a sniveling little coward. And Carver turns out to be a sniveling little coward at the end because he spills the beans pretty quick when Laurence Fishburne has him over the bonnet of the car with a gun in his face.
He shatters the mask of God. He shatters
the mask of God. Yeah. And going back to the mask and the whole idea of duality, because I think there is something racist about Jeff Goldblum's character in the sense that he's almost proud he's having an affair with a black girl, isn't he?
Well, he says it, and then that's when Fishburne's character's like, "Yeah, you're racist.
You're racist." But he hates it when people are anti-Semitic.
Yes.
He's a total hypocrite. He's a total hypocrite in that respect.
Oh God, yeah.
And it's that sort of duality as well, that moral duality. That he hates racism apart from when he is conducting it, and engaging with it.
Yes.
And yeah, that mask. That I love the whole dialogue as well. We talk about noir dialogue. I love the dialogue between Russell and Betty about that mask, where he says, "How much is this?" and she says, "We don't put price tags on this, and if you have to ask on our exhibits, and if you have to ask, you can't afford it." And he says, "Well, I want two then." So sort of stylish and quick.
Yes.
And then he keeps asking for them. "Don't forget my two masks."
Yes.
There's a lot of sort of cool, noir hero dialogue going on there, and attitude in buckets.
Yeah, which we know what his two masks are. He says it in the film. He says, "I'm a cop pretending to be a drug dealer." No, I'm a drug dealer pretending to be a cop.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about all these things where people go undercover or they're double agents is, and I think the tagline on the poster that we've got says it, that there's something like there's a line between catching a criminal and becoming one.
Yeah. Yes.
And what I love about all this is the stories like this is how far these people have to go to satisfy the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting theme. And I think it's an interesting story device when done well. When done badly, it can be really cheesy.
Yeah.
But here, thankfully, it isn't. And he really struggles with it. And it's good to see that he struggles with it.
Yes.
And there's a bit at the end where Jeff Goldblum says to him something about, you get hard for cash or something, he says. You've got a love affair with money or whatever it is he says. And you think, yeah, I reckon that's true.
I reckon
that's true. Yeah. And he said, and Laurence Fishburne's character says, Russell says, this was a lot easier than being a cop.
Yeah.
There's never a sense that he is certain of himself in this. He's sort of, for me anyway, he's certainly veering towards turning into what the very thing he's meant to be catching.
Yeah.
And we know from documentaries that have been out recently that undercover cops do this sort of stuff. They do waver and they do create new lives that they shouldn't, and become somebody else and can't find their way back. And it's, it's just a really fascinating story theme to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you, is it possible to lose your own self?
And
is the greater good worth it?
Yeah.
If it happens. And that's what this film is tackling.
Yeah. There's definitely an element that sort of reminded me of The Big Heat a little bit, because, Bangan's character really gets pushed pretty far.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He almost, and that's kind of what happens with Russell. He gets pushed really far and almost goes totally bad guy.
We mentioned it in our episode, don't we? The Big Heat, that Banyan's quest for cleansing the corruption is then corrupted by his thirst for revenge, and he starts putting other people in danger. He puts Debbie in danger. He puts that old woman who he gets to identify from the car lot.
Yes. Yeah.
He puts her in danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he can't see past the greater good, and we definitely get a sense of that with Russell. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I found so fascinating. It's deliciously noir. Now, there's the scene you were talking about earlier where Russell kills someone. There's this drug dealer who's quoting the Terminator. His name is Ivy. He's always like, "I'll be back. Have you seen that movie? Have you seen that movie?
Rent it.
Go rent it." What a character! What a character! My God! But there's that shocking moment when Russell he's got his sort of lady who's helping him peddle his drugs, and previously there was an altercation with Ivy and Russell. Some guns were drawn and he left, but then Ivy just comes up out of nowhere and just fires at them in a car, and she dies, and Russell gets away unscathed. But the response is, you have to kill him or the street is going to eat you alive.
And this comes from Jeff Goldblum.
Yes. And there's that club scene where he goes into the club. Russell goes to the club and he finds Ivy and he follows them into the bathroom, and there's this exchange between the two of them, and it's fascinating because at no point do you look at the character at Russell and think that, oh my God, he's like a tough badass. He looks terrified the whole time in this scene. And then when he whips his gun out and then is forced to shoot and kill Ivy, there is no sort of bloodlust. There is no sort of sense of relief. There is no sort of, I got a bad guy. His quote is, "I killed a man who looks like me and nothing happened. No police came."
That's the scene I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's he is so shaken by what he has done, what he has sort of been forced to become, what God has made him become.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then he has that great line to God Carver where it says, and this again, it reinforces my opinion of Carver being a snivelly little shit.
Yeah.
Because he says, "What did it feel like? Killing a man. What did it feel like?" And he says, I mean, that is just sleazy, in the worst possible way, the most horrific way. And Russell has a great comeback, which is, "I thought you were God." He says, "I am God," and he says, "Then you should know what it feels like."
Yes.
That's a killer line. I think that's my favorite line in it.
That is a damn good line. That is a damn good line.
Yeah, and you're right. I think that is the turning point. What good am I doing here? I'm just becoming one of them. Yeah. Because is the greater good worth this? And you do have to ask yourself. And that's not an easy question to answer.
No. But I also really enjoy, Russell's arc throughout this sort of everyman cop who gets thrown into this situation that becomes, he's way over his head. He then starts jeopardizing his morals, his beliefs. He never did drugs before, but now he's taking drugs, and he's, falling in love with a woman who is sort of she's not a femme fatale in the traditional sense, but she is a femme fatale-esque character, the art dealer lady. But then I also really it's that death of Taft that I think that shocks him back to
definitely
reality, that he doesn't believe in the system anymore, really. He knows that there is corruption everywhere you go, but what he does believe in, and that is that sort of hard-boiled, tarnished knight sense of justice, that Batman sense of vigilantism almost, right? Where once, Taft stupidly follows the drug guys to the docks, and he, for some reason, decides to deal with the situation all on his own. The damn fool ends up getting shot by Jason, by Goldblum's character. And he's he's shaken by this whole thing, and he's just like, you shouldn't have. And that's such a tense scene, because you have Goldblum who's just sitting there with the gun and with the money in the van saying, we gotta go
we've got to go now. We have to go now.
Fishburne is just, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't, you don't know what's gonna happen. You're like, and then the big exposing moment where he's like, David Russell's like, I am a cop, you asshole.
Yeah, he phones in for an ambulance, doesn't he? And he uses police code for it.
Yes,
and
he's like, what are you doing?
Goldblum's like, what are you doing? And
yeah.
and it's this is the bit where although it's it's perfectly in character and it's perfectly in the moment, but this is Jeff Goldblum being what Jeff Goldblum the brand is to me now. That sort of what are you doing? Where are we going with this? What do we do? That patter, that sort of stuttering patter. But his eyes are absolutely mesmerizing during this scene.
Yes.
And I mean mesmerizing to the point of madness, because he is totally focused, and he isn't able to process what he's seen before him, because he doesn't believe in it until he says, I'm a cop. And it's taken the death of Taft, who really I think is one of the only good people in this.
Yes, he's the only true good guy, I think.
The only true good guy, bleeding out, and he realizes what he actually is, Russell.
Yeah.
And I think it then takes Goldblum firing another shot to really
finishing him off. Finishing him off was
finishing Taft off, but then the Fishburne's performance in that scene, where he's a broken man, isn't he? He's just like, he's been in control all the way through. Well, appeared to be in control all the way through, depending on what role he's playing.
Yeah.
But now that his soul's been laid bare, he's a broken man.
Yeah, because he knows the guy who just died was a good guy. And he knows it. He's just witnessed this, and the thing is, he knows it from other things as well. He knows that there's the drugs that are killing the kids and doing the thing but this hit him harder than most things.
Yeah, and I think it's because Taft is what the idealistic Russell thought he could be when he joined.
He did, yes.
We've not talked about the opening where his dad is drug addicted, drink sodden dad gets killed in a store holdup.
Yes, and
he makes a vow to clean it all up, essentially. He does a Bruce Wayne. He says, I've just watched my dad be murdered, and I'm going to do something about it.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, it's not worked. It's not happened. He's a beat cop, and he sees in Taft what he should have been. I think that's pretty obvious at the end. Instead, he's been dealing drugs, and losing himself in this fake ID.
Yeah, but I like that his sense of justice doesn't end with dealing with Goldblum's character either.
No.
It's there's a scene after with Carver, and he's like, oh, we got your girl. If you want her to walk, you got to talk me up. You got to big me up because he's being an asshole. He is. And we snap to the next scene. That's like a month or so later, or 6 months later, I can't remember. And they're like, well, here's what happened. Yeah, this with the help of the team, they orchestrated it all. They're all so smart. Blah 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 blah. And he's like, oh, I got something else I want to submit to the court.
Yeah. And this is like a real cheer moment for me.
Yes, he's then a whistleblower, and he's like, look, I talked you up, but I didn't have to. You didn't, I'm not, nothing stopping me from submitting this because you're all a bunch of assholes. And none of you deserve protection. You were all corrupt, and he's doing it at the expense of himself, his career, everything. He is like, everything. I don't care. This is the right thing to do.
That's the hero's journey. This is the right thing to do, regardless of the consequences.
And then he goes on to become a PI, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, you're right. His attorney says, doesn't she? She says something along the lines of, "He kept his promise. He kept his part of the deal. He bigged you up. What he did afterwards was never part of the deal at all. Exactly. That's his own contribution."
Yes.
Yeah, you think good.
Yes.
And then he has that great bit with the money that he's taken from the deal.
Mm.
And he says the money doesn't know where it came from, but I do. And you think he's going to do something good with it, I think. He's going to try and do something worthwhile with it.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so, anyway. Set up his own private eye agency, as you say.
Yeah. There's also, kind of going back to that kind of Batman-like aspect. The woman at the beginning who is in that dumpy apartment building, who tries to sell her son to him. He really feels for the son. He likes the kid, and he sees the kid as being shortchanged by the education system, by the welfare system, by all these systems that aren't there to keep him safe and protect him and keep him fed. And she eventually ODs and dies in the course of the film. And it's interesting that he, like Batman, takes this Robin.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all there, isn't it? Yeah, it's all there. And looks after him. Yeah.
Quite interesting. One of the things I thought was very fascinating on the thematic side is there's a moment where Guzman, one of the Hispanic drug dealers, the cartel dudes, says that they're trying to talk about the new drugs and all that kind of stuff, and Goldblum's wanting to get more kind of control over things, and Guzman says, oh, you racist Americans, you just want to cut us poor Hispanics completely out of the market. To which Jason responds with, when he said it, I was like, you know what, that's really quite true, I think. But he says, Jason responds, there is no such thing as an American anymore. No Hispanics, no Japanese, no blacks, no whites, no nothing. It's just rich people and poor people. The three of us are all rich people, so we're all on the same side. And if you look at the absolute batshit system that, socio-political problems that we have today, you look at the dickhead who's in the White House, you look at the fucking assholes who are in Parliament, like, all you see are people who come from money, who control everything, manipulating everything and everyone. You have all these tech firms that are manipulating and controlling and suppressing everything. You have news organizations that are no longer giving the news. They're being, I'm being conspiratorial now, kind of. But you think people like Rupert Murdoch, who controls Fox, like, that's not news that's coming out to you. That's perfect. That's curated propaganda that's coming out. This the glass key all over.
It's exactly the same as what Russian TV is news is like. It's what the state wants you to know. And you talk about the tech companies. I mean, you've only got to look at the post office scandal to see that happening right before your eyes.
Yes.
They'll lose billions if they admit it was wrong. So what they'll do is they'll ruin all these working class people in little towns and villages all over the country.
Yes.
Because if they accept it was wrong, they'll lose billions.
Yeah.
That's what this film and noir is about.
Yeah.
If you want to see real life examples of the ethos of this subgenre of crime fiction, it's that. And you're right about the people in the White House and in Parliament. They don't give a rat's about us.
No,
because they are all in it. In this country, I don't think they ever used to be. I think they occasionally there were some who were in it for the right reasons to stand up for what they believed in and what they genuinely thought would make the country better and people better off.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're all in it for themselves. They're not in it for the right reasons. They're all in it for themselves.
Yeah,
and it's an absolute shambles. It's a total shambles.
Yes,
and it is. None of them that I can say, or the vast majority of them, are rich.
They're loaded.
So
yeah.
And I don't
4 or 5 homes, a London apartment that they spend 2 days a weekend, maybe.
Yeah. We paid to have their houses decorated. You know what I mean? It's just nuts. And
I also on this note, you have, who was it? Prince William. This is going to date us when we recorded, but Prince William just came out that he's going to stop charging like various charities like ground rent and stuff like that, because a report came out that he was making thousands of pounds off of charging these charities ground rents, and it's like, wait, you're meant to be this big charity guy, and like, fuck off.
And as ever, you think to yourself, why does it take a report for you to realize that isn't perhaps right?
Greed, baby, greed.
Why does it take a report for you to have to reevaluate your own position in life?
Because they want that money.
Because they want the money.
Simple.
But I think because again, this will date us, but the report into the post office scandal has just come out.
Yes.
And in a nutshell, as I say, that is money and corruption going hand in hand, and the little man suffers.
Yeah.
Because the big companies don't care about them, and that's what all this stuff is about. That's what books like The Big Sleep is about, and Glass Key and all that. They're all about these big people.
Yeah.
So I sort of, although none of the characters in this are particularly likable, apart from Taft, I suppose, and even he got on my nerves.
Well,
but I agree with Jeff Goldblum's character about that. I think.
Oh no, I do too. I think he hits the nail on the head of the reality of the situation. It is all about money, and once you have the money, nothing else matters. And then it's the poor people who just have to fight it all out, while the wealthy just sort of sit there and with their arms folded and laugh and watch the chaos below. And that's what it is.
That is what it is. Yeah, that is what it is.
Yeah. It's nuts. But in terms of likability, I don't know. I mean, I liked Russell. I like
Russell. Yeah, I like Russell. I
like Betty. I think she's hot, but she's also she is gorgeous.
She sure is. Yeah, sure is.
Goodness. But no, I like her character. She's someone who got in over her head, and that limousine scene, which we haven't talked about. But I'm tempted to not really want to spoil the limousine scene in case there is someone who hasn't watched but is listening to this whole thing for some insane reason. The limousine scene is just fantastic. But at the end of that, she's like, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't. This is too much for me now. And then Goldblum's character's like, she's gonna have to die. And Russell's like, you touch her, I will kill you. And he does kill, but Betty is almost saved, if not saved entirely. But at the end, we don't really quite know what the did Carver hold up his end of the bargain, or did he back out because of what?
I don't know. I do like the bit. I do like the bit when Jeff Goldblum's character, Jason's going off on one with Felix Barbosa. He's like, let's have dinner. We'll have shrimp.
Yes.
Shooting him in the knee. You know, things like that. Because, I mean, just a quick word about Felix. He is one nutter. He is. He's a dangerous looking for. He looks like a sort of. He looks as if someone sort of vacuumed out all the air from Groucho Marx.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's got the same moustache and glasses and cigar as Groucho Marx, but he's nowhere near as funny.
No,
but it's a terrifying role, that, and the little he's called Gopher, the little fat fella who's with him. Who I don't know. Are you meant to think they're a couple? Are they a couple?
I didn't get that reading, but I maybe on a second watch I would. But I didn't clock that.
It's just him always saying, "Oh, Felix, don't do it, don't do it," and you think, "Yeah, no, he's going to do it. He's going to batter this bloke," you know, and he has to keep looking away. And you think, how many times has Gopher seen this?
Yes,
and knows what's coming. You know, I mean, he knows what's coming in the hand slaps. That's for sure.
Yes,
and I just think Felix was a real. He's a real hissable villain in this, and a dangerous one. You know, sort of almost as I always get the craze mixed up, but whichever the psychotic Cray was.
Yeah.
The more psychotic Cray. You know, was it Reggie? I got those vibes from him.
Yes.
You know, that he's just a dangerous loose wiring in that head.
Oh my God, definitely.
So I was pleased that, you know, that this is a film with anti-heroes, perhaps, rather than unlikable people.
Yes.
Because I was cheering Goldblum on when he was getting his revenge on Felix. I was like, you deserve this.
Yeah.
You deserve this.
Definitely. No, yeah, Felix was nasty. They're all nasty. You know, they're all nasty except, you know, like I said, except for I didn't get nasty from Betty. I don't get nasty from Betty, and I don't get nasty from Laurence's character. You know, but she's just she's just gotten in over her head, and Greed has taken her down this path of danger.
Yeah, Betty is greedy because that business doesn't look as if it's failing to me.
No.
And she obviously likes a bit of the products as well, because we see her take it, and she's suspicious when Russell doesn't.
Yes,
and I think she just thinks she's in it for extra cash and and some kicks.
Yeah,
but then is dragged into it, you know. And again, that's noir, isn't it? That the nastiness drags you in.
Yes,
as Marlowe says, I was part of the nastiness now.
Yeah,
you know, whatever it is he says at the end of The Big Sleep. It drags you in, and once it's got you, you can't let go. You know,
Indeed.
You can't let go of it.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, that's I don't know. I feel like I've sort of talked my way through this film. Me
too.
I love it.
I loved it, and I think it's one of those films that really, let it speak for itself. We can talk about it for another 2 hours. I could happily talk about it for another 2 hours, but I think sometimes you let it speak for itself. I think it's a film that definitely does that. We'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
And did you have any dislikes?
I could be super nitpicky, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, the only one that was a personal taste. I'm not really a lover of hip hop, so some of the soundtrack I could live without. But it's a perfect soundtrack for the film, so I couldn't knock any points off for it.
The music didn't bother me. I love the music. I'll give you one nitpick, and that is there is one very, very awkward transition in which we're looking at two people sitting on the hood of a car, and then someone walks in front of the camera. Yeah. And like the scene moves with behind their back and pulls the scene into the next one. It was very jarring. That's the only thing. There's that, and there's just that. But that
I wonder in the 90s that might have been like absolutely jaw dropping in the 90s, but not now.
I don't think it was. I think it was just a stylistic move that
maybe.
I don't think it was jaw dropping even then.
Perhaps not.
No, nah.
Well, go on then. Should we rate it?
Yeah. So as our regular listeners know, we rate all of our films out of 5 Falcons, 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. Out of 5, how do we rate Deep Cover 1992? I'll go first. It's a 5 Falcon for me. What about you?
It's a 5 Falcon for me. There's no danger.
There we go. It's highly recommend. Go buy it. Go get the Criterion version that's out there. It looks. I can't wait to get my hands on it. There's nice little extras that I'm excited to get my hands on and watch and rewatch this. It's like I said, there's every once in a while there's these ones that you watch like that has to be in the collection, and this is one that needs to be in the collection.
And it deserves to be, as far as I'm concerned, more well known than it is. But I might be living under a rock. Maybe it's well known outside of my conscience, but it's
I'll tell you why I also don't think it is as well known, and that is there is almost next to no. I say next to no. There's very little information about it, even just on Wikipedia.
Yeah, I look at the Wikipedia page. There's no production notes in
nothing,
Wikipedia
nothing at all. And that's kind of a sign of like, well, there's not a lot of background information on this film if even that is dried up. If there's nothing there. Now, there are, don't get me wrong, there are about 3 or 4 places that have that have some really good interviews and some really good behind the scenes stuff that you can find. But yeah, I think this is a film that is it's sort of, you know what, it reminds me a little bit of The Devil in a Blue Dress, which was another one that should have been a massive hit, should have spawned sequels, but never did. We should have 5 Denzel Washington easy rolling movies at this point, but we have 1. And this to me, like, you want a fantastic double bill, go watch Devil in a Blue Dress, which gives you your classic noir in the 40s, and then watch Deep Cover, which gives you your dirty, gritty 90s noir, neo noir, and you're in for a great 4 hours.
Great ride.
What a double
great
bill.
Ride. Yeah. Go and see this film, find it, buy it.
Yes.
It deserves your attention.
Indeed. Well, I don't have any other remarks.
No.
Do you?
No.
Well,
no.
I would say Deep Cover is well and truly investigated, so we can close a file and put it in the drawer and move on to the next case, which we will obviously get to next week. But for those listening, if you can, like, subscribe, leave comments. Join us on Patreon if you haven't done that yet. We're dropping little bonus podcasts and things like that on there. Some of them are just sort of rambles. Some of them are going to be other reviews and things like that. But make sure to come hang out on Patreon. And we'll be back next week with another case. So remember to take care walking down those main streets.